to the Future of Product webinar series. In this series, we will be covering the topics of agile processes and roles, product management, and creating a successful business with software. Our topic today is the ingredients of a winning product launch. And in the agenda today, we'll be covering what is go-to-market, aka GTM, what are the prerequisites for a successful launch, what are the internal stakeholders of GTM, importantly, who are the customers, what is the buyer's journey, and how to improve from this. My name is Pinja Kujala. I'm an Agile and Product Management consultant here at Eficode. And here today with me is Antti Suvanto.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Antti Suvanto and I'm a product management consultant having somewhat experience on different aspects of product management.
So Antti, if we start from the very basics, what is go-to-market, aka GTM? What do we mean by that?
Okay, I think it's used in a little bit or understood in a little bit different manner in different contexts, but how we are handling it in this webinar is that the go-to-market is actually the plan how to launch new products or new product features to the markets. I know that there are people around who think that go-to-market is also a wider set of activities, but here we are concentrating on this launch aspect of go-to-market, and specifically we will observe the go-to-market from the product team's perspective. So today we are not concentrating that much on the sales processes and marketing, so more like product team's perspective.
So from the traditional sense, you mentioned that there are multiple ways of understanding this. What is the traditional understanding of a GTM plan?
My experience is that especially in larger kind of established companies, the GTM plan is one part of the process book, and it's a long static checklist for or of mandatory activities you need to do in order to proceed on the product process or marketing process or sales process, how do you call it. As it's static, not dynamic, it typically has no context, so that it's kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. So in most cases we are launching something which doesn't fit right to the process, and also it drives the actual implementation of the plan to a direction that we are not asking why something needs to be done, and it's more like driven by the output rather than the outcome or results what we achieve by implementing the plan.
We will next be talking about what are you launching, how does that affect all the risks and the uncertainties around the GTM.
Yeah, I guess this is very important question. So if we are working in an environment that we only make an incremental change on the existing product, where we might even have a known customer or we are launching it for existing customers, then of course it should be relatively straightforward. There are not many things we don't know. We have the customer contacts there. We are already sending invoices to the customers. Kind of a business process is very clear. And then I think it's more like continuing the existing activities, not specifically doing anything extraordinary, or it doesn't require much. It's just normal day-to-day work. However, if we are entering to new markets, kind of a customer groups or customer segments we haven't worked with earlier, or if we are launching something which is completely new for us and for our customers, then of course we have more uncertainties or kind of things we don't in the starting phase know about. And to show a little bit kind of estimating that I don't know if it's how difficult, but maybe a little bit reflecting that how much energy and how much resources we need to use for the GTM, selling new product for existing customers, or kind of selling enhanced product version for new customer segment. It might be 4 times more work and effort. But if we are entering new markets with new products nobody is aware about, it could be even 16 times more. This is just to give some directions. This is not based on any scientific study, but just to understand that more uncertainties you have, more you have to invest in terms of time and budget regarding the product launch.
Pretty often our own customers are asking us, how do we manage this side? How do we manage the uncertainties and the risks? Because they are in the business. They want to be aware of what's coming up. So could you tell us about the tools?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe one thing is to actually go back to the basics. So when starting the GTM planning, it should be based on the work we have done when we actually made the business case, where we evaluated the new product, should it be feasible or not, how big is the market, who are the customers. And in order to understand in how complicated situation we are, you can use as very powerful tool, for example, the business model canvas from Alexander Osterwalder, or lean canvas presented by Ash Maurua. And these are very powerful tools of kind of double checking that if we have a change, for example, in customer segments, what else needs to be taken care of or changed in order to be successful in the launch, or not only launch, but in the overall business. And in most cases you have done this earlier, so now it's time to come back to this documentation and maybe do some fine-tuning and checking that if that already done work is still valid. But that would be a very efficient way of understand better where you actually are in the starting point.
So going from revisiting the business case documentation, what are the other prerequisites? There must be something else that is needed for the launch to be successful. What are the aspects that need to be taken into consideration or calculated or managed during that time when making that plan?
Yeah, there are so many things related to the launch, and of course you need a new feature, you might need a new product, you need to have delivery capability. Is it software delivery or even physical product? You need to have support capability so that actual users can adopt your product in use, and they can get the value you are promising for them. And of course, initial product packaging, whatsoever your product or service is, initial pricing, budget and resources. But here we will be concentrating more of kind of building the customer, actually buyer's journey so that your product would be easy to buy and there would be kind of a systematical way how to follow the performance of your whole sales channel. And that's the point we are going to focus on this webinar more.
Before we go to the customer, there is the aspect of internal stakeholders in the product organization. So maybe covering the key ones. What are the needed, so not always the needed ones, but the important stakeholders internally for GTM?
Yeah. I would say that most of the stakeholders of a product organization are needed. So definitely you will need help from sales, marketing, product development to ensure that the product is available and the quality is good enough. Delivery organization, support organization, as said earlier. And then of course there could be even partners. So it's very typical that, for example, in marketing activities, we will use external parties. And of course, in some cases, we use resellers or partners for selling our products and solutions. So they are also needed. I have drawn product manager here in the middle. Product launch might not be owned by product manager, but many product managers are key players in the launch of their respective products. So he or she is a very potential candidate of managing the GTM, even though there are many stakeholders who are participating on the actual work.
So let's talk a little bit more about the customer side. Who is the product being offered? Let's cover that up next.
Okay, this is my favorite one. So it's very easy to think that all the customers are equal and all people or all companies who could use our product, they are our potential customers. But in reality, it's not a winning strategy of trying to sell for all possible customers, but typically kind of segmenting the customers for kind of smaller entities who share something. So there are some things in common. It could be related to the need or a desire they have, you can satisfy with your product. But of course, it also could be a preferred way of buying something. That could be also one way of segmenting. And once you have identified these segments, try to focus for the most important ones. And by using this segmenting concept, you need to do the buyer's journey maybe only for one customer segment, and the members of that segment can use the very same buyer's journey, or if you provide any kind of material to the buyer's journey, it can be written in a way that it really resonates for the target group. So it's very, very important thing to take care about. And it's much easier to be successful by focusing to one or two key segments, trying to get enough market share within those. And once you have been successful, then copy that for the next segments, so that your kind of activities are always made on the customers or customer segments specific needs. Your communication is about things which resonate the target group, and then it's much easier to be successful. Here are some examples. So selling, for example, paint for indoor painting. What kind of personas or even customer segments we have. 3 examples here. So there is somebody who paints her own house. There is another type of customer who is kind of a painter or does the paint job for his customers, kind of a small company. And the third point is the kind of architect who plans what kind of colors and which tone we would be using in specific public buildings or hotels or whatsoever. They all are customers for the paint, but their kind of problems or needs differ quite a lot. So it might be so that in the initial phase we are only selecting 1 or 2 of these customer types instead of trying to do it for all possible customer types in one given point of time. Also, when using these customer personas, it's easy to kind of fine-tune the value proposition you have based on the needs of that specific customer persona or customer segment, so that you are able to answer the question, what is in it for me? And that's of course the most important question to be answered for your customers, so that they really will buy your product. So value proposition is a clear statement explaining how your product solves customer problems or needs and delivers some specific benefits. And it also tells why should the customer buy from you and not from your competitors. Shortest value proposition would be answer to the question, what is it in for me? A persona, a user persona, buyer persona, is a fictional character created to represent a user or buyer type. So kind of giving a little bit flesh around the bones and describe what kind of persons these specific customers are, what are their attitudes, what is their preferred way of buying products and services, and that will help you to focus on the right things when approaching a specific customer segment.
Let's talk a little bit more about the buyer's journey as a framework to support the GTM plan. For example, you have now mentioned that there are different buyer personas, there are different ways that they're using the product. But let's take a look at the buyer's journey map next, how to use that as a tool to
buyer's journey as a framework for GTM. Here we will present a simple buyer's journey map. And let's start from the beginning. So the first phase is called exploration. Your target there would make the potential customers aware about your product, your company. And when thinking about the customer, the goal could be looking for solution to a specific problem. It may be so that the customer is looking for solution for his need or his problem, but that's not always the case. It could be even so that the customer or potential customer in this phase doesn't know that she needs your product, or doesn't know that they have the problem your product is able to solve. So basically this is very much concentrating on marketing in different channels. So advertising in social media, posting in social media, advertisements in newspaper, magazines, even TV, organic search, building the search engine optimization to such phase that if a potential customer is looking for a solution for a specific problem, and if you are able to solve it, then your product or solution will be in the Google's first search page. Email, cold call, organizing events are also examples how you could reach your potential new customers. How would you measure if this phase is working? It of course depends what kind of touch points, what kind of channels you are utilizing, but it could be number of website visits, number of social media impressions, number of social media clicks, could be some metrics related to your email campaigns, so open rate, whatsoever clicked links in the email. Of course, you are not able to send emails for unknown people, but in case you are launching a product for your existing customers, you happen to have the email addresses and you have the possibility to include your new product or product feature to the normal marketing email, then it would be possible. The second phase is called consideration. So basically your target is to convince the customer of the value your product could bring to her. In some cases, this is kind of a self-evident, so that you are kind of answering to the need or a problem which is very well formulated and the customer is really knowledgeable that this needs a solution. But there are cases where the customers do not understand or they are not able to phrase what is the problem or need. And then you are in a position that the first step is not to jump directly to your product or the solution, but initially you need to make the customer to understand that the problem you are able to solve is kind of important enough so that it would be one of those problems which will be solved relatively soon, as in most cases customers have plenty of problems. So in order to show that this problem is worth of solving, and that's the first phase of consideration, and second part would go to the relief, which of course would be your product, followed by justification why the product should be bought from you and not from the competition. On the customer side, it would be important to help them to understand if the problem is important and valuable, so that it would really, if it's solved, to help the customer's life. And also if the proposed solution would solve the problem for reasonable cost compared to the value, as well as being kind of a risk-free solution, not demanding too much focus, resources, money, for example, when it's taken into use. This phase is more kind of a heavy lifting than the exploration. So here we could publish white papers, blog posts, reference stories, introduction videos, value calculators, webinars, podcasts, trials or demos. So something relatively concrete. And now, if we can point out the importance of the problem or need for the customer, then we are able to provide value for the customer even though they wouldn't be buying yet. So now we are in a position that we can ask like contact details, or we can build leads to our sales force to contact in case our business model has a direct sales model. And what comes to measuring this phase, it could be number of reads for the blog, number of downloads if we are doing downloadable guides, or if our value calculator is something that some kind of interaction is required there. And of course, if somebody leaves the contact information, maybe describes shortly that what he or she is looking for, in which position he works in the customer's organization, definitely that would be a warm lead. And more we get those, the better is our position to move the customers to the next phase. Next phase is the decision phase. So our target is to help the customer to make the final buying decision and close the deal. Customer's goal in this phase is an effortless purchase process to save time, to save focus, to save resources. And also customers are usually a little bit afraid that if I make this investment, if I purchase this product, they are a little bit afraid that if it's not doing what's promised, if it's difficult to take into the use, it won't be adopted to wide usage. They think that they might not be able to get the full value out of the product. For that reason, if there are any kind of obstacles on the purchase or any kind of information several customers are looking for, in this phase we can little bit smoothen the kind of purchase, final purchase. Touch points here are webshop, could be in-app sales, could be direct sales if we are selling something more valuable so that we can afford a direct sales model. The average deal size needs to be, of course, relatively big there. And then, of course, as key metrics, number of deals, revenue, and why not quote to cash time, so that somehow measuring how long time is spent, for example, first real touch point. You cannot measure if somebody visits your web page, but for example, on the consideration phase, you might have a collection of contact information whatsoever, and you could measure that how long it will take from the first kind of from the first registration of the customer until they actually buy. And of course, if we are thinking about the financial terms, the kind of sending invoice and getting the payment would be the final phase in order to close the deal. Fourth phase is then usage. And this is quite important because this often happens for the old customers, existing customers. The initial purchase might have taken place a long time ago. In some cases, it's kind of a continuous thing, so that monthly or weekly customer is buying more, but it's anyway an important phase. And there, your target would be reselling, selling again what you have sold after once it's consumed, upsell, selling something on top of the basic solution, and then drive for additional users in case your business model is connected to the number of active users, as an example. Customers' goals here are kind of a scale up the usage in order to get additional value out of your product or solution. Or it would be getting even better solution to use and getting more value out of your product in that way. Touch points, in-app sales, direct sales in some cases, but often also via the support service or support channel, so that if customer is facing challenges when they use the product, maybe the support organization could help them and direct them to the right new additional features, and then help customers to buy even more. How would one measure this phase? It could be upsell revenue, number of upsell cases, in how many customer cases we are able to upsell something more. And definitely there are products like mobile gaming, where actually the whole revenue stream comes from kind of in-app purchases. So then the total revenue actually comes out during this usage phase. So I hope this simple example clarified to you how does the buyer's journey map look like. And the point here is that don't overload this. Start so that you have, based on the customer behavior, based on the selected customer segment, try to understand the buyer personas of those specific customer segments, and try to create touch points, material, sales process so that it fits to the needs and preferences of the target group. Don't do solution which tries to please everyone, because during the GTM, when launching a product, it's much better to focus to limited customer segments and getting kind of initial market share up inside that customer segment, so that there will be kind of customers discussing with other potential customers, and you will get kind of positive movement on the market. Once you have checked that you have material or touch points for the whole buyer's journey, check that those are connected to each other, so that no customer is lost. In whatsoever phase the potential customer is, it's very important that you show very clearly that if you are still interested, click here and you can go forward on this buyer journey, so that we don't lose the customers. Of course, it may be even so that there is none of the customers are going the journey as you planned, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, to whatsoever part of the buyer's journey a potential customer enters, there is always a way to find more information and find the next logical steps to buy your product and enjoy the value your product is bringing to the customer. And in order to, what needs to be done next, so when you have started this, is to follow these metrics and identify that what is the worst phase, and then focus on the weakest link on the journey. And it's a very kind of lean or agile way of doing things. So instead of doing 400 different actions, you might build the buyer journey with, let's say, 20 or 40 activities, and you will implement those. You will start with that, then you follow the metrics, and you always focus on the weakest link. So you are all the time kind of working on the thing which forms a bottleneck in the flow. And that's very efficient way of using your resources and getting best out of the GTM plan, and to be successful on the launching of your product. So kind of build, measure, learn type of loop, which you might be aware of in different contexts, in building products or evaluating if they are feasible, or if customers will really, or will the product will, if the products will fit the markets. So the very same principle works here as well. So good luck with your next launch. We would like to thank you for your time. I hope this helped you for your next launch.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.